Chuck Norris couldn't or wouldn't do. The 86-year-old, long deemed invincible, has died suddenly, leaving his legion of fans in shock.
For millions of people, Chuck Norris was the man who never lost. He wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol of strength. On television, he stood up for justice. In movies, he defeated enemies who seemed impossible to beat. Online, his name became one of the biggest legends in internet history. Jokes about his strength spread across the world, making him larger than life. That image stayed with people for decades. But every legend has a human story. Behind the famous smile and confident voice was a husband who deeply loved his wife, a father who cared about his children, and a man whose greatest victories happened far away from movie cameras. As the years passed, Chuck stepped away from Hollywood. While many celebrities chased more fame, he chose something different. He spent more time with his family. He focused on his faith. He enjoyed a quieter life away from flashing cameras and red carpets. Many fans wondered why they rarely saw him anymore. Some believed he had retired for good. Others thought he simply wanted peace after spending decades in the spotlight. The truth was much deeper. For Chuck, success was never measured only by blockbuster movies or television ratings. Those things made him famous, but they were no longer the center of his life. His family was. Friends often described him as calm, respectful, and surprisingly humble. Away from the cameras, he preferred simple moments over glamorous parties. He enjoyed time outdoors, long conversations with loved ones, and helping people whenever he could. That side of Chuck Norris was rarely shown on television. Most fans only knew the action hero. Very few knew the man. As time went on, stories about his health appeared online. Every few years, another rumor claimed he had died. The internet spread these stories so many times that many people stopped believing them altogether. Whenever another false report appeared, fans would laugh and say, "Not Chuck Norris." The jokes continued. The memes continued. His legendary image seemed impossible to break. Then, one day, everything changed. The headlines were no longer rumors. This time, people weren't sharing another internet joke. They were sharing a goodbye. Across social media, fans began posting scenes from Walker, Texas Ranger. Others remembered his classic action films. Martial artists thanked him for inspiring generations. Families shared stories about watching his shows together every weekend. The reactions came from every corner of the world. People weren't only remembering an actor. They were remembering someone who had inspired confidence, discipline, and determination. As tributes continued to pour in, another question quickly appeared. What would happen to everything Chuck Norris had built during his lifetime? His career had lasted for decades. He had starred in successful films. He had appeared in one of television's most popular action series. He had written books. He had invested in businesses. He had supported charities that helped thousands of young people. Surely, he had built an incredible legacy. But how large was that legacy? And more importantly, who would inherit it? Fans expected the answer to be simple. It wasn't, because behind the headlines was a story filled with years of hard work, difficult choices, family sacrifices, and moments that almost changed the course of his entire life. The fortune people talked about wasn't created overnight. Every dollar represented years of determination. Every success came after countless failures. Long before he became one of America's most recognizable action stars, Chuck Norris was simply a quiet young man trying to find his place in the world. Nobody could have imagined where that journey would lead. The boy who once struggled with confidence would eventually become one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. His story wasn't built on luck. It was built on discipline. And that discipline would shape everything, from his career to his family and the legacy he would leave behind. But before there were movie sets, before there were television cameras, before the fame, the fortune, and the worldwide recognition, there was a young man whose life almost followed a completely different path, and one unexpected decision would change his future forever. The boy who refused to stay weak. Every legend has a beginning. For Chuck Norris, that beginning was far from glamorous. Long before movie cameras followed him, he was simply a quiet boy growing up in a small American town. There were no crowds cheering his name, no movie posters, no championship belts. In fact, most people who knew him as a child would never have guessed he would become one of the world's biggest action stars. He was shy. He kept to himself. He often lacked confidence. Life wasn't easy for his family. Money was always tight, and every day brought new challenges. Like many families across America during those years, they worked hard just to get by. Watching his parents struggle left a lasting mark on him. Even as a young boy, Chuck understood that nothing in life would ever be handed to him. He would have to earn every opportunity. As he grew older, he searched for something that could give his life direction. He wanted to become stronger, not just physically, but mentally as well. At first, he didn't know where that path would lead. Then, everything changed. As a young man serving in the United States Air Force, Chuck was stationed overseas. Living in another country opened his eyes to a completely different culture. One day, he walked into a martial arts class. He had no idea that simple decision would completely transform his future. The first lessons were difficult. His muscles ached. The training demanded discipline he had never experienced before. Many beginners would have quit after a few weeks. Chuck didn't. Every lesson made him more determined. Every mistake became another reason to improve. For the first time in his life, he discovered the power of discipline. Martial arts wasn't only about learning how to fight, it was about learning patience, respect, self-control, and confidence. Those lessons became part of who he was. Day after day, he trained longer than most students. While others rested, Chuck practiced. While others complained, he pushed harder. His instructors quickly noticed that he wasn't the strongest student in the room, but he was often the most determined. That determination separated him from everyone else. Years later, Chuck would often explain that success doesn't belong to the most talented person. It belongs to the person who refuses to give up. That mindset became the foundation of his entire life. After returning home from military service, Chuck faced another challenge. He needed to earn a living. Hollywood wasn't calling. Movie producers didn't know his name. There were no acting offers waiting for him. Instead, he began teaching martial arts. At first, only a handful of students signed up. The classes were small. The income was limited. Some people questioned whether he could make a career out of teaching karate. Chuck ignored the doubts. He focused on becoming the best instructor he could be. Word slowly spread. His students admired his patience. Parents appreciated the discipline he taught their children. More students joined. Then even more arrived. Before long, his small classes had grown into successful schools. His reputation reached people far beyond the local community. Eventually, well-known entertainers and athletes wanted to train with him. That changed everything. Teaching famous clients introduced Chuck to people inside Hollywood. They saw more than a martial arts instructor. They saw someone with confidence, presence, and natural charisma. Friends encouraged him to consider acting. At first, the idea seemed impossible. Chuck had never dreamed of becoming a movie star. He wasn't trained as an actor. He wasn't connected to powerful studios. But he had learned something during years of martial arts. never reject a challenge simply because it looks difficult. So he took acting lessons. He studied. He practiced. He made mistakes. And he kept improving. His first opportunities were small. He wasn't the leading man. Sometimes he appeared for only a few moments. But every role became another lesson. Every movie taught him something new. Slowly, directors began noticing him. Audiences remembered him. His calm personality and martial arts skills made him different from other actors of the time. He wasn't trying to be flashy. He looked believable. He looked disciplined. He looked real. Those qualities helped him build a loyal audience. Film after film, his career continued growing. Success didn't happen overnight. It came through years of hard work, long hours, and countless setbacks. Looking back, Chuck's journey teaches an important lesson. Great success rarely begins with extraordinary talent. More often, it begins with ordinary people making extraordinary commitments. That quiet young boy who once struggled with confidence had become one of the most respected martial artists in America. But an even bigger opportunity was waiting just around the corner. A single television role would soon turn Chuck Norris from a successful actor into a worldwide icon known by millions of families. And once that happened, his life would never be the same again. The role that changed everything. By the early 1990s, Chuck Norris had already built a successful career. He had appeared in action movies. He had earned the respect of martial artists around the world. Millions of people knew his name, but something was still missing. His movies had loyal fans, yet they reached only part of the audience. Television offered something different. It brought familiar faces into people's homes every single week. That opportunity arrived with a new series called Walker, Texas Ranger. At first glance, it looked like another action show, but it quickly became much more than that. Chuck didn't want his character to be a hero who solved every problem with violence. He wanted Walker to represent honesty, courage, and respect. He believed audiences should see that true strength comes from protecting others, not from hurting them. That idea helped the show stand out. Every episode mixed action with important lessons about family, friendship, and doing the right thing. Parents felt comfortable watching it with their children. Grandparents enjoyed it. Teenagers admired the exciting fight scenes. The series reached an audience of all ages. Week after week, viewers tuned in to see what would happen next. Soon, Walker, Texas Ranger became one of the most recognizable television shows in America. The success surprised even the people who created it. As the ratings grew, so did Chuck's influence. He wasn't just the lead actor. He became deeply involved in the creative direction of the series. He wanted every episode to reflect the values that mattered most to him: discipline, respect, justice, compassion. Those weren't just words spoken on screen. They were principles Chuck tried to live by in real life. People who worked with him often described him as professional and prepared. He arrived early. He treated the crew with respect. Whether someone was a producer or a new assistant, Chuck greeted them with the same kindness. That attitude earned him admiration across the set. While many celebrities chased attention, Chuck focused on the work. The show's popularity soon spread beyond the United States. Episodes were broadcast in country after country. Families around the world came to know the fearless Texas Ranger who always stood up for what was right. With that success came financial rewards. Television provided a steady income unlike anything Chuck had experienced before. The series also introduced millions of new fans to his earlier films, books, and fitness projects. His career reached a new level. But Chuck understood something many people overlook. Fame doesn't last forever. He believed that success should create opportunities beyond Hollywood. Instead of relying on acting alone, he explored new business ventures. He partnered with trusted companies. He invested carefully. He supported projects he believed in. He also continued giving back to young people through programs that encouraged discipline, education, and personal responsibility. For Chuck, success meant more than earning money. It meant leaving a positive impact. Away from the cameras, his happiest moments were often the simplest: time with family, quiet evenings at home, conversations with close friends. Those moments mattered far more than award ceremonies or headlines. As the years passed, younger generations discovered Chuck in a completely unexpected way: the internet. Funny stories and Chuck Norris facts spread across websites and social media. People joked that nothing was impossible for him. The stories were obviously fictional, but they introduced his name to millions who had never watched his movies. Instead of fading from public memory, Chuck became part of internet culture. Few actors have experienced that kind of lasting popularity. He laughed about many of the jokes and appreciated that people still remembered him after so many years. But behind the laughter, life was changing. Age was slowing him down. He appeared in fewer projects. He chose to spend more time with the people he loved most. The spotlight became less important. Family became everything. Looking back, it wasn't the action scenes that defined Chuck Norris. It wasn't the fame. It wasn't even the fortune. His greatest achievement was building a life based on values that inspired millions. Yet just as life seemed peaceful, an unexpected challenge would test those values more than ever before. It wasn't a movie villain. It wasn't a dangerous stunt. It was something far more personal. A heartbreaking crisis inside his own family would force Chuck to step away from Hollywood and devote himself to the people he loved. That decision would change the rest of his life. A legacy beyond the screen. For most people, Chuck Norris will always be remembered as the fearless hero who never backed down. But as the years passed, the biggest battles in his life happened far away from movie sets. They happened at home. After decades in Hollywood, Chuck began slowing down. He appeared in fewer films and spent more time with his family. Many fans wondered why they rarely saw him on screen anymore. The answer was simple. His priorities had changed. Success had already given him everything he once dreamed of. He had a long career, loyal fans, and financial security. Instead of chasing another blockbuster, he wanted to invest his time where it mattered most, with the people he loved. Those who knew him personally often described him as deeply devoted to his family. They said he valued quiet moments much more than public attention. He believed that real success wasn't measured by fame, it was measured by the lives you touched. That belief shaped the final chapter of his life. Away from Hollywood, Chuck dedicated more time to mentoring young people through charitable work. He supported programs that encouraged discipline, respect, and confidence, values that had transformed his own life decades earlier. He often reminded young people that talent alone wasn't enough. Character mattered more. He believed discipline could change a person's future. Those lessons became part of his lasting legacy. His business ventures also reflected that mindset. Rather than chasing every opportunity, he focused on projects he genuinely believed in. Friends said he approached business the same way he approached martial arts, with patience, preparation, and consistency. It wasn't about getting rich overnight. It was about building something that would last. As time moved forward, Chuck's name remained popular around the world. New generations discovered his films. Older fans continued watching Walker, Texas Ranger. Internet jokes kept his name alive in pop culture. But behind the public image was a man who never stopped valuing simple things: family dinners, faith, friendship. Those moments meant more to him than any red carpet event. When news of his passing spread, millions of fans shared memories online. Some remembered their favorite fight scenes. Others recalled watching his television show with their parents or grandparents. Many thanked him for inspiring them to stay strong during difficult times. The tributes came from every corner of the world. They weren't only celebrating an actor. They were celebrating a life that inspired courage, discipline, and perseverance. As people reflected on his career, conversations naturally turned to the legacy he left behind. His achievements weren't limited to movies or television. He had built businesses, supported charitable causes, and influenced generations through his work and personal example. For his family, those memories carried far more value than any financial success. Money can be counted, a legacy cannot. The true measure of a person's life is often found in the people they inspire. Chuck Norris spent decades entertaining audiences, but he also encouraged countless people to believe in hard work, self-discipline, and perseverance. That may be his greatest achievement of all. As one chapter of his story came to an end, another continued through the lives he touched. His family would carry his memories forward. His fans would continue watching his work, and his message, that determination, integrity, and kindness matter, would remain long after the cameras stopped rolling. The action hero became a legend, but the man behind the legend left behind something even more powerful, a legacy that cannot be measured by fame or fortune alone.